Hi, my name is Kevin Mulhall. I am the founder of the nonprofit Tech Hub. So, a little bit about this channel, my nonprofit, and a couple of other things is kind of go forward here in doing some of the things that planning to do here at Nonprofit Tech Hub. So, a little bit about me is I've been in the nonprofit sector, specifically around the land technology portion or landscape of it. A little less so than from an operational lens, but that's changed in recent years. The reason I was inspired to start the nonprofit tech hub is um, really over the years of engaging directly with nonprofits, the majority of whom are operating with essentially zero or very low technology budgets, with little, um, in some cases, maybe uh, intermediate level knowledge in technology, the ability to scale staff, whether it's contract, part-time, full-time, uh, tech dedicated technology professionals, it's uh, almost impossible in many cases. And seeing that, I've been inspired to finally kind of take the plunge and take a crack at it myself. I do not have a background per se in technology. I've been fascinated by it, but I would say that I probably knew more in the 90s when I was building computers, actually working on servers as well in high school with some friends, many of which were much smarter than me, but it was a great opportunity to learn. And I kind of got away from that. I moved around between careers and found my way back into tech when I was living in the Bay Area. Um, I don't know exactly what happened, but I just became completely enamored with it again, probably more so than before. I am self-taught. I do not have a BS in computer science, a master's in engineering. I was not previously a junior admin, sysadmin. I am just a person again that is very fascinated by technology and believe that it is more often than not a force for good. It's um it's something that I believe that if there's a willingness by nonprofits to learn with the right resources, the right content, they can be inspired to use and make good decisions around the use of technology. The door is not instantly shut on you if you are a small food bank in Sheboygan. It does not matter from the small meal delivery service in Zanesville, Ohio, to Feeding America, for example's corporate offices in Chicago. There are a plethora of tools out there. The challenge is in finding them. Some are more in your face, such as the Microsofts, the Googles, the Adobes, all of which have incredible programs for nonprofits. But it's important to note that they're not necessarily one size fits all solutions. I think that they can certainly be used uh, to do many things, but there is a lot of balancing that needs to occur when considering it. And that is not something I've seen a lot of nonprofits do. They're very mission focused, which is awesome, but executing one's mission, delivering on one's program requires a lot of things. It requires people, first and foremost, and it requires the right technological tools. In today's day and age, we have the ability to alleviate a lot of our work burdens and or our inability to maybe even staff certain positions, certain roles, features, and functions using technology. It's really about being aware of it And then beyond that is seeing what it is and then having it communicated in a non-techie way, if you will, um, whether or not a solution is right for you. There's a lot of considerations. And in my next video, before I get into a myriad of different things that I'm going to be doing, such as uh, doing full walkthroughs of adopting a technology, showing some tips and tricks like around them, um, talking about products more in an in-depth way, along with I'll be engaging with subject matter experts in a variety of fields. I don't know everything. I'd like to think I know quite a bit, but if I could have a superpower, it would definitely be super intelligence, um, because I would like to know everything when it comes to technology. Um, but it's about that type of work will be about plugging into people that are experts in their field, um, having nonprofit accountants on, having them talk about the solutions that they see used, whether it's QuickBooks, whether it's Wave. There's a variety of applications in that space, and some may make sense for others. What's important to know is, again, what's out there, what the experience is, what the onboarding process is, and then what the expectations are around that, continuing to be educated on a product. Uh, we oftentimes just want to uh, grab whatever is free or whatever is extremely discounted without a clear vision of what the product can do. And more importantly, what it can do for us. I want to, in a microscopic way, change that. The goal of the nonprofit Tech Hub is to put in front of you videos. We have a podcast, and then a blog with reviews and other content that I will be sharing. I will be embedding those in show notes, especially around YouTube files that will be publicly viewable, so that if people want to take a deeper dive, take a look at the various things, like, for example, I'll be shooting very early on in this channel reviews around AI tools and marketing slash copywriting. Um, and I will be embedding within a link within the show notes a link to a Google Sheet that will be viewable, not editable, but viewable. That's going to ultimately house what I hope is to be a very large repository of information around tools. For example, things like the vendor's name, the product or additions that are available to nonprofits. Is there ability to trial a product? Does it require a credit card? These are all things that I'll discuss in a lot of different episodes, especially when I get into talking about the difference between perpetual licensing, which is kind of making its way out almost entirely, and subscription services or SaaS, software as a service. It's important to know what each is, what each isn't. Um, and again, part of the planning process. So again, along with the content that's here on YouTube, uh, we have a podcast that's in place. We will be having reviews that are also added on there. I'm also going to be sharing a wide variety of other informations. There are a lot of organizations that operate in this space. I'm not a be all end all be all. The nonprofit tech hub is not that. The focus is really on the technology piece. Um, and not so much like the other day-to-day like functioning components. There's plenty of other resources for that. I would encourage people to take a look at that. My goal here is to just present the landscape at its fullest. It's not this or just that. It's here's everything. Here's everything that I know, and I don't know everything. And what I'm going to encourage people to do is that when they are interacting or interfacing with the channel here or even podcast, contact information is there. If there needs to be corrections, I will do as a one person operation. I will do everything in my power to be able to make sure that the most accurate, up-to-date information is available around anything. If something meaningful changes in the user interface of a tool that you're like, hey, a lot of people are talking about this, whether it's on Reddit or elsewhere. Can you please let people know what it is? Hey, send me screenshots. I want to know what's going on with XYZ product, and I want to share that information. Because if you're dealing with it, I can assure you that hundreds or even in some cases thousands of other organizations are. And the real goal here is to be a conduit of information. I don't want people to have to go running across the web, get five different opinions. I do it in my day-to-day work. It is very difficult, it's very challenging, and this is what I do as a profession to help subsidize my life and to help support the work that goes on here because I pay for it myself. I do it because again, I love technology and I love to figure things out. Personally, I'm not like the type of person that looks at something and is just immediately frustrated, close the book, back on the shelf. Now, I understand a lot of people can be like that, especially around technology, but I implore you to just take a breath, to sit down. If there are questions, thoughts, concerns that you have around that, my contact information is going to be nested in the channel. I If it becomes popular, awesome. If it doesn't, that's maybe a good thing too, because if you reach out to me, I'm going to do the best that I can to get back to you in a couple days. I can't give everybody a timeline, but if people ask me questions about stuff, I do it here where I'm at in Dallas all the time. This is what my life interest is. So I'm happy to take questions around things. This is going to be kind of figuring it out as it goes too. Um, I don't have a production background. I'm familiar with the tools that are necessary for it. I'm not shooting this in 4K. I'm not editing this through After Effects. Like this is going to be like until maybe a certain point, very raw in its formatting, its style, and its what's produced. Because again, I don't want to spend a long time editing things. The most important thing is the visual, the ability to see it, whether it's in 720p, 1080p, 4K, whether I've cut out all the ums. I'm not looking to do that. And when it comes to even walking people through products, when I'm talking about reviews, when I'm showing how to set up API connectors, whatever it is, you're going to see it in real time. I'm not going to edit out like things, error codes, these types of things. I want people to see what it is in real time because to me, and I think that there's a lot of great content, but what I find, and I'm sure a lot of people find challenging, is as they're going along in the process, directions and instructions are not oftentimes written by engineers, people that actually build the products, like QA testers. They're not often done by that. They're done by writers or content creators. And while I think that that's great, that they're working side by side, I would push back against what's actually communicated, right? There's not enough pictures. There's never any video. I want to be different than that. I want this channel to create content where it gets from end to end, and if there are some roadblocks, you get to see them in real time. Obviously, we'll edit out things like passwords and credit card information because again, I pay for this stuff. I happily accept donations, but I don't care about that. My focus again is people in the nonprofit sector really getting the most out of it. I love the good things that they do. Somebody who grew up with a family that struggled, I did receive, food from the church, from the food banks, clothes from various institutions. I had a family that ran and still continues to run um, treatment facility. And charity is a great thing. It's what makes us human, right? That's one of the things that I do like about humanity. So really it's just about really getting in, showing what it is that you need, being able to provide that, extra step, help you along that extra step or two. This is not managed services. I think managed service providers are the majority that I've come across are good. And in a lot of cases, they are necessary. But the thing is that like let's figure out a way in the whole scheme of things for you to get what you need, learn what you need, and execute or implement on what it is that you're doing in the most efficient way possible. We tend to just kind of fly by the seat of the pants, especially smaller orgs. Um, and that's something I would like organizations to avoid, like to come into whatever engagement they have, whether it's scoping a software, scoping a service. Here are the things that you need to know about the software. Here are the things that you need to ask this provider, or you should ask this provider in advance around whatever services it is. Um, it's really just kind of general advising. So with that, obviously, I would disclaim that this is just advice. This is not something that you have to follow. This is not something that is always necessarily going to be holistically accurate because this information changes all the time. I would ask that people are respectful and not holding people to the fire, myself included. Because again, this is free advice. Like it's not something that somebody is paying for. It will be to the best ability that I have to share what the information is. So in closing, I thank you for watching this video about what the Nonprofit Tech Hub is. Website will be down in the description, along with contact information. If there are things you want to see or learn more about, please just put it in there. If there's something that I can't scale just because maybe it's not economically feasible for me, I will not be spending hundreds of dollars to run a month trial of a particular product. I will get people in from those companies. Like, tell me what it is that you want to use a product for. What are you doing? How would you want to use this product? And even bringing in vendors, which I'm really excited to because I think that there's a large area of technology that is not necessarily aligned. Like, for example, like the Y Combinators, the startups. I think I get into things like Product Hunt, which you may not have heard of, and that's okay. I think a lot of cases it's people that are either really in the field, or somebody that lives in the Bay Area. You just even in casual conversation, you would probably know what this is. Marketplaces like AppSumo, that are they're not necessarily really fully established firms, but they're extremely low cost offers. Is really bringing people on, that have a product, have a service, and giving them the opportunity to present it. Because again, there's a certain bandwidth that I'll have to be able to demo, to sandbox, to demo, to run full production, it's called, type environments. I've already doing that now to a fairly large scale, and it's okay. But again, if there's something that the community wants to see, to learn about, to hear about, like to get in details, I think at this point in my career, I know the right questions to ask, like to draw out, like where does that map? And I'm going to talk about it in a next video that actually I want to upload because I want to talk about like budgeting and some things around technology life cycles. It's kind of dry, like just like this video, it's kind of run on a bit longer, but again, I don't have a script, I'm just talking. Um, and I'll do that 99% of the stuff that I probably produce because that's just how I am. I don't like the fake rigidity of, just reading off a teleprompter. Um, is, you know, it- I've already presented on this actually at a couple of events here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's really important to first understand like technology in terms of like what it means operationally, which to a certain like level of revenue or a certain size or capacity of an organization, it's really just you're just throwing stuff at the wall, like we don't have a budget or it's only like this. It's like, and that's okay. But there's a conversation that needs to be had because it's almost like if you're not succeeding in certain areas, I could probably tell you that it's because there's not a technology plan for it. It sounds biased, and I certainly am biased, but I feel that a lot of times an ability or inability to properly do things, whether it's like, oh, our data's everywhere, our files are everywhere. I've heard that for years from customers I work with at my 9 to 5, and it's really just okay. Like, what's the conversation around this? Like, you just keep going forward, and it's like, well, yeah, and it's like, well, now we need to have somebody, come in and take a look, and it's like, oof, it's like there's going to be a cost associated with that. I'm going to be able to, and in the future, will talk about the products and services and even strategies for doing things like that. But I'm going to be catching a lot of you people, I think, after the fact, like where you've already passed that. So I do want to present information like around how can you bring that all back together. But in cases like that, you're going to need help. Volunteer, contract, like, MSP, part-time, full-time. You're going to find yourself probably in need when you're past a certain threshold. And there is with every product and service. Like technological area, there is definitely a breaking point where it becomes unattainable or there's an inability to com- to refocus on just that. So with that, this is a very long intro. Usually, like the ones I've seen on YouTube, like around stuff like this, are only a couple minutes. This has probably gone on for several. But I wanted to just, again, just speak right from the heart, if you will, about what the Nonprofit Tech Hub is. Again, it's amalgamating. It'll be changing, it'll be evolving. But again, the main focus here is on content that we'll have here on YouTube, podcast, and a blog that we're going to maintain. Again, I love feedback. I will do everything that I can to answer as many legitimate questions that are in there. I don't have a favorite food. I don't prefer beaches or mountains. But if you have a question around something that is in relation to should I get this license type or that license type? Again, I'm going to talk about that in depth because SaaS is something that, or software as a service, is something that really needs to be deep dived because there is a common playbook, if you will, or common strategy amongst vendors or software makers that they kind of all follow. And it's not meant to be like one way or another. It's just that the nonprofit sector is, I think, uh, most affected by this because, and you'll see later that going from version A to version B, um, in a lot of cases, not a lot of cases, but in some cases may be necessary. It doesn't have single sign-on. It's not HIPAA compliant, like whatever it is. And it's very frustrating. And I know because I've heard it for years and I experienced it even myself that, well, I want like API access, like automations, integrations, but I can't get that until the third level. And that's 3x more expensive. It's only one function or feature. Why would I pay for these other 10 that I don't need? And that's the name of the game, like in software. Like, there's not hyper customization, for example, and even in hardware, like this, it has this processor, but it only has this RAM, or it doesn't have a dedicated GPU, or whatever it is. And that's okay. Like, we're gonna work on ways to figure out on how to more closely align. Will there be the perfect hardware, the perfect IoT devices, the perfect software? No, but there will be a way to strive for perfect implementation. That even falling short, you're still going to be much further along than you would be without a strategy. So with that, again, I am actually going to sign off this time. So welcome to the Nonprofit Tech Hub YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Mulhall. Please, comments are greatly appreciated. Subscribing is good. And actually, I'm going to do something very different than what I see with 99.9% of YouTubers is I'm willing to sacrifice algorithmic preferencing. If something I create is not good, give it a thumbs down, right? I am actually really bothered by the fact that YouTube hid that feature. I don't think that that's fair to people, especially ones that are searching out technology answers, because, for example, and I'm rambling here, but for example, I was looking up information about a cable modem router combo. I saw one video and it wasn't even a full unboxing, right? They had another series of videos around a different model, but it wasn't what I was looking for. It was just a dedicated router, right? So it's like if you don't have the ability to see like thumbs down, then you don't know whether or not there is any value to that. And I will encourage people that good or bad, like subscribing I would be great, but please, good or bad, let me know. Thumbs down, thumbs up in the comments. Like again, I'll do my best. Like there'll probably be a certain point after a video is produced where I don't know if I'll have the ability to be constantly going back to things. It'll depend on volume. If volumetrically this becomes, something that a lot of people are using, which I hope for the sake of nothing other than, people are being educated, hopefully. There'll probably be a cutoff where I won't go back to actually going into comments from videos that are 2, 3, 4 years old. That's just it's at a certain point that's just not going to be sustainable. If it is a comment around something needing to be updated, that I do. Again, there'll be documentation that's going to be nested in each of the videos to some degree or another. Like transcript, for example. If you do see something, like I'll try to figure out a way to like maybe even codify or label like or even textually label like something where it's like, hey, this needs an update. I'll figure that out down the road because if somebody does ping in something that definitely needs an updating, like, hey, this feature or function is not in there, and this is very important that you know that they've got rid of this feature because you will find that with a lot of companies that something that you've relied on for years is all of a sudden gone. Or maybe even something like as silly but critical as it exists, but it's not in that version, it's in another version, or it's been completely renamed, or the interface is different. Like, or if I'm talking about some type of process automation or flow or something is broken that's a lot of people may be using because of changes that a vendor or OEM or manufacturer has made. So, with that, thank you for watching this. If you made it all the way through, bless your heart. And yeah, again, if there's stuff that you want to see, just comment in the area below. I have a plan for how this is going to work, as I mentioned during all of this rant. But I am open to certainly where there's a common need, just jumping in between content that I have scheduled and planned to address something. Because that's really what it's about. It's about you. It's not about me. I'm just an extension of of a greater goal, and that the community hopefully benefits from that. So with that, I want to thank you for again watching this all the way through. I look forward to being able to hopefully help some of you, ideally a ton of you, because I love what the communities, like various communities, do here to help those that are in need, those that are struggling, etc. You are really it's cliche, but you guys really are the change makers. You don't do this because you get paid a lot, because you probably don't. You do this because you have a real general interest in making things better. So with that, I am signing off. This is Kevin Mahal, Nonprofit Tech Hub. Talk to you soon.